Hey, what's going on, guys? So, real quick, I'll try to keep these short because I have a tendency of just continuing to ramble. So I'll try to keep these within under 5 minutes. So I got a DM, and a kid was wanting to know, what can he do when he's on the mound, when he's pitching, and things are just going haywire, right? So obviously, I have very good experience with this. As much as I would like to say that I don't, I do. I have really good experience with constantly being in jams, backs up against the wall, like all of the, like whatever you want to call it, I have good experience with. And it wasn't until later in my career where I really started to put into place some things, outside of the actual game that better equipped me for being in those certain situations. So I don't know if you can see, new addition to the studio apartment though is this sweet little whiteboard here. It'll fall eventually. Anyways, what I got written here is controlling the chaos, right? So as pitchers, I think we can be like one of two guys. I'll never forget when I got traded over to Pittsburgh in 2012. There was a guy there, and he talked about being a convenient competitor. So, as a pitcher, everyone's pretty much good when they're cruising, and they don't have any traffic on the base pass. They don't, they don't really get into any trouble. They have good feel. They have good stuff that day, and it's just convenient for them to compete because they're not getting in any trouble. And I really took that to heart because, obviously we always want to cruise, but in this game, you guys know that there's going to be times where we get into trouble. And we need to compete, So what I got written down here first is prepare in chaos, and then the second one I got is trust your preparation. So just to elaborate a little bit more on the preparation in chaos is, like I said, later in my career, I started trying to manipulate environments that better equip me for that chaos that I would experience in games, So what I mean by that is, if I got a bullpen scheduled, which as a starter, we always have a bullpen scheduled, I'm going to throw 98% of that bullpen in a state of, my mindset being like I got second and third with one out, and I got 3, 4, 5 coming up. So I'm constantly trying to put my mindset in a position where I'm manipulating those uncomfortable environments. And you can obviously take that steps like further. I actually do really well with like my imagination, I guess you would call it. Like I've always been a guy, like even as a kid, just my ability to put my mind in a separate setting, and it was crazy because like we can get into a habit throughout the course of a season where we're throwing our flat gowns and we're throwing our bullpens and we're just doing it to do it, not really a purpose behind it. So what I started doing a little bit later in my career was even like flat grounds, I would try to put myself in a position where it was like, okay, it's 3-1 to the 3-hole hitter, like I have to make a pitch, and just start practicing that. And that kind of segues into my next point, was trust that preparation, right? So when you do get into those certain circumstances in the game where it's a leadoff double and then it's an error, so it's second and third or whatever it is, like you're gonna get put into those certain situations. So when you do, trust your ability and the fact that you've prepared in those situations. So anytime we do things, multiple times, we just become more comfortable with them. And I know there's certain situations, like especially in the game of baseball, where we can do something millions and millions of times, but there's always going to be that sense of uncomfort. But we can always prepare. That's like I talk about this a lot, right? Controlling the controllables. Our preparation is always something that we can control, and it's about going about that preparation in a smart, efficient way. If you struggle with, being a guy that can potentially, I'm not trying to like diss on you guys because I've been there too, but being a guy that gets really uncomfortable when there's guys on base, or gets really nervous. When you're facing a good team or whatever it is, if you can identify that you're that type of pitcher, then you need to put certain things in place that will better equip you moving forward. So for me, like I said, going back was, I started preparing. and that was just my mindset. Even if it's something to do with like when you do throw your bullpens or you throw your flat grounds, like have someone stand in, so it brings about like a little bit more, you know, adrenaline, a little bit more kind of like amped up type feeling, and set up your bullpens. Like I said, like put a dummy in there, not a dummy like your teammate, but like one of those little, I don't know, stand things. Just like try to manipulate the game type environment again, and then like put it in your head too. And if your pitching coach is there, ask them like, hey, do you mind throwing a scenario at me, and then I gotta pitch my way out of it, you know? And again, like take this as far as you want. I always go back to like is trying to treat them as game like as possible, to the point where like literally second and third, 1 out, 2-hole hitter up. I try to like tailor it to where it's my next start or my next outing, whatever lineup that is. I'll try to like put that into play. So, you know, the 2-hole hitters up, second and third, 1 out, and you know, I'm getting my sign, I'm shaking. If I don't want that, I'm shaking, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, I want that one. Come set, you know, take a look at the third base, take a look at second base, and just like literally, your body will just start getting used to those environments. And then I'm telling you, man, trust your preparation. Trust when you do get into those jams. Like, why do I have to fear this? Like, I just practiced this. Like, I've been in these positions in my head over and over and over again. Like, now I just make pitches. Now I'm here. Like, I've done this already. It's that sense of comfort, you know. I know I said under 5. I don't know if I made it under 5, but I hope you guys take something from this, because those are those little things, man, that literally can make the world of a difference. You know, I think for a majority of guys, they get uncomfortable when you know, guys get on base, because we're constantly practicing in settings where we're chilling. Like, we're just throwing bullpens, you know, we're not holding runners, we're not doing this, we're not, you know, pitching out of jams in our drill settings. Like, start implementing certain things, you know, like that, like I've mentioned today, that you can revert to, you know. And I think for me, I speak for myself, but it allowed me to kind of trust myself a little bit more in those certain jams, you know. And then I love competition, you know, so I just kind of start falling in love with those types of jams or chaos, whatever you want to call it. Like, challenge yourself. Like, I can get out of this. It's bases loaded, no outs. Like, I'm just going to make pitches. And remember that, man, to top all this off. It's just, you know, it comes down to winning each and every pitch. You know, bases loaded, no outs. Like, you're still going to have to execute pitches regardless. Just because there's guys on base doesn't change the fact that you have to execute. You know, don't put any more internal pressure on yourself, right? There's enough external pressure on us as ball players that we don't need more internal pressure. And I don't want to go on a rant, so I'll leave it at that. I hope you guys take something from this. Much love. As always, email, direct message if you guys want me to talk about a particular subject. Much love, guys. God bless. Until next time.